And now to round out the last matchup in the Sweet 16 opening rounds for my Casio watch playoff series for 2024, we have the Casio A1100 versus the MTP-S110. Two very different watches, vintage, old school, just very Cybertruck looking versus, well, frankly, a good enough dive watch, solar, date, everything you can want, has a nice look. Well, I'm gonna compare these two watches and pick a winner to move on in my watch bracket comparisons. I'm gonna put on the watches though, as I like talking about the watches while I'm wearing them rather than just holding them the entire time. So let's get started. This was one of the watches that I got when I was in my vintage digital phase for Casio, and it has a very unique design. That's why you should buy this watch. There's three variations of it. The reason why I liked it was just because of the angles really off to the side. Yeah, digital display is a digital display, but I really like this, I don't know what shape that is. Is that a, I guess it's an octagon? Kind of reminds me of Bender from Futurama. But it has like that very weird angular look to it. Nice bracelet, by the way. I think this is a very solid office watch. You want to wear something dressy. You know, you can't really wear the digital, the resin black digital ones. So this one does it for you. It's all metal, which is great. Unique button lookout. One of the things I don't like though is, I don't know if you can tell, it has a yellowy light glow to it. Not a big fan of that. And one of the things where if you want to know the date, you got to push the button. Also not a big fan of that. But overall, with the look of this watch, I think it has a very nice design. And that's why I ended up picking this one up, just because of the face design. It's so unique, it's so different. And they don't make a lot of metal, steel, digital watches. I know that they do, Casio does, but there's not that many. And I wish they would just upgrade some of the resin metal looking ones. Just make it metal versions. Charge more. I think they would sell like crazy. They just don't. Size-wise, I should also mention, this fits very nicely. It's sort of long, it's that rectangular look. It does fit for my 6¼ inch wrist. That was something I tried on the store. Ended up picking this one up at Macy's, so that was nice to be able to actually try it on, not just guess. But dimension-wise, I think it's great. It's a nice work watch, but it did fall off as I accumulated more and more watch, especially in the digital realm. It just couldn't really keep up. But I do wear it occasionally when I want to go like retro. But this one is really competing against like my A700 for that old look, old digital look. This one is like a newer version of that. It's very unique, and I think yeah, when people look at that, they're like, oh, it's an interesting looking watch. Never seen that before. But it's not really gonna wow anyone, I think, which is fine. Now switching over to a very different watch, a water watch, a dive watch, and Casio makes some good ones. And in looking around, yeah, you could go with G-Shock, but I didn't want to wear a G-Shock for the beach or the pool. I wanted to wear what I thought looked like a dive watch, and that's what this one does. The S110, it does look like that. I think the design is overall just great. There's so many good features in this watch. It has the look of it. I mean, it doesn't have the rotating bezel. Sure, it doesn't have that, but it has the dots for the indices, which I really like, because there's some Seiko dive watches that, oh my gosh, I would jump brands if they just size them and were a little cheaper. But it has solar in it, 100 meters of water resistance, and the date window I think is very unique and special. As a dive watch, I don't see too many dive watches with both of those features on it. Also has a very nice color with the red accent on it. I did switch the band though. It came with a lot thicker band. I think this is a Barton brand. I really like these ones. However, I will just mention though, this is one of the watches that I look at it and sometimes it looks too big and sometimes it looks okay. And because of that, there's other dive watches that I have that I prefer wearing. There's just sometimes, I don't know what it is. Maybe I'm just going crazy, But when you have a small wrist, sometimes you question whether a watch is too big. And for me, whenever I do that, I know the watch is too big. There's other watches that I don't even question at all, so I know it fits me right. This is one of those watches that when I got it, I was like, oh, okay. it's pushing it to Duro size. I don't know comparison directly between this and the Duro. I haven't held them side by side. This one is just, to me, just slightly too big on my wrist at times. But there again are other times that I think it's perfect. And so if I had to pick one of these two watches to move on to the Elite 8, well, it's really hard and unfortunate for a lot of the watches that have been previously eliminated in this watch tournament, because frankly, these are probably, I'd say this is the weakest matchup out of all the matchups in the first round. This is probably the weakest two watches, and they happen to just go up against each other, just how the brackets were drawn up. Between these two watches, I would say I'd pick this one. And it's for its unique design, it's for its look. Again, there's other watches that were eliminated that I probably would pick over this watch. But just between these two, the fact that this one is sometimes too big on my wrist, I know it sounds ridiculous, but sometimes the watch is too big. It has great features, it has a great look. I won't pull this one, you know, like, there's other dive watches that fit me better, that do just as good things, but I don't have to question whether it's too big. And that's where this one loses. So this case is actually, it feels like it's more of a this one lost rather than this one won. I think in the other brackets and other watch comparisons, other watches beat out other watches. In this case, this one just outlasted this one, if you want to use the sports terminology and analogy. This one just lost it, and it's just a little bit too big for me. If it was a little bit smaller or had a little bigger wrist, I think this one would be a winner. I really like the design. I wish Casio would make more watches that look like this, just smaller, and you'd have a real winner. So anyway, the A1100, and surprisingly to me, moves on to the Elite 8, and yeah, we'll continue this watch comparison from there. So thanks for watching.